Hi, this is Shannon Pendleton with Passive House Accelerator, and thanks for tuning in to this special bonus episode of the Passive House podcast, recorded at PhiusCon 2023 in Houston, Texas. And a big thank you to Zola Windows for their support of this series. I am here today with Graham Wright from Phius, and we are going to talk a little bit about ASHRAE 227. So Graham, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do for Phius, and how hard this year has been. You've been busy. You've done a lot of work.
Right. I'm senior scientist for Phius. I've been with them for since 2012. And I mostly work on the development of our new programs, and one of the 227 Standard Committee project is one of those initiatives that I'm working on.
And it's open for public comment right now, right?
Yeah, it's open. It's the first public review period.
Well, for those who don't know what the ASHRAE 227 standard is, can you explain it and what the purpose of that standard is?
Right. The idea is to take the ideas of Passive House and render them into code-intended language. So, it's following through on this desire that we've had for a long time to, quote-unquote, make Passive House code. That means that it needs to be recast, basically.
So what issues does the 227 solve that existing passive standards don't in order to get break through to that level of becoming code?
One of the things you can't have in a code is like proprietary requirements for credentialed professionals. Basically, any above code or all the above code green programs, they all kind of work the same way, where in order to get the certification, you have to use, an accredited professional or something like that, for that program. You can't have anything like that in a code standard. It has to, you can talk about skills that people need, but the question of like who's actually qualified, that has to be left to the authority having jurisdiction to decide. And there's some similar things around, like you can't require certified products or particular products. So that that also, or if you're going to point someone to like a certification, you also have to give the authority, or the authority has the discretion to approve something else. It also, and this is kind of an ASHRAE recommendation or policy, that there should be like a pretty clear, quote unquote, prescriptive path for people to follow. It can't be entirely, performance based. But let's see what else.
Well, it sounds like it's really removing barriers, increasing adoption by removing that requirement to be credentialed. Is the structure different? Can you explain the structure of it and the timeline behind it?
Yes. So the structure of it is it works more like the way that other energy codes do, where you have this more or less prescriptive or straightforward path that's like straightforward to comply with, but is kind of inflexible. And then you have the option, if if one of those many prescriptive requirements like irks you, or you find yourself troubled by it as a designer, you can do a performance path where you do a full whole building energy model and prove that the performance is going to be equivalent. And one of the advantages, I guess, of that approach of kind of regulating things piece by piece is that it should generalize better to all kinds of non-residential buildings. Right now, both of the proprietary passive house standards have this what I would consider a weakness of for unusual or first of type or non-residential buildings. There has to be some kind of study done at the institute to come up with like custom targets.
Right.
But this this approach of having a prescriptive path, basically solves that. So I guess the way I've talked about it before sometimes is that it's not that big of a mystery of what the contributing factors are to high heating loads or high cooling loads. So we should be able to write regulations that regulate those contributions, the internal gains, the solar gains, kind of piece by piece, and likewise the infiltration losses and the transmission losses. We should be able to write rules that kind of get at all those contributing factors in a fairly cut and dried way.
Excellent. And when does the comment period last until, and how does the timeline go from there?
So the advisory public comment review period goes through, I believe, November 13th. So just
coming right up.
Yeah, so just a few more days. And I don't think we've gotten too many comments yet, but it is quite a long document. And so, there might be a rush at the end. This first public comment period is what they call advisory, which means that the comments don't actually have to be formally responded to. Once you go to publication public review, they do. As part of the consensus process, in a publication public review, the committee has to make good faith efforts to resolve the commenters, and so I think we've penciled in basically 3 rounds of publication public review. I believe the reason for that is to resolve conflicts among the comments.
Mm-hmm.
So if you resolve someone in the first round, you may create a problem for someone else in the second round. So it takes a couple of tries to get that. And so that process will probably, we expect that to take about another year to get through 3 rounds of publication public review. And we're not quite sure. We still have it on the schedule, I think, to try to go out for publication public review, pretty soon, like in January, like this January.
Congratulations.
But I'm not quite sure that will happen. If there is a delay, it'll probably be like another 3 months if we don't make it. But we'll see. So it's I think it's great because it's concerned with the same things that we've been concerned about in the proprietary programs. The main point of it is reduce the heating and cooling loads and energy overall. This was like the official purpose statement, I think, says exceptionally low energy use, and that are like durable, healthy, comfortable, resilient. All of the additional requirements that we have built around it for indoor air quality and acoustics and moisture management and all of that has to be addressed and is addressed in there. So we've not left anything out, really. So that's why it's over 200 pages.
I started my reading. I haven't submitted any comments yet, but I hope to. For CPHCs out there, the Certified Passive House Consultants, working under the the standards now.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice do you have for them? Are there case studies they can look at, or are calculators in the works for them to use to prepare how they'll address these new standards coming?
There are very few worked examples. This is something that we're going to need some help with. Training will have to be developed, and software, because when I talked about prescriptive path, in most cases it's not super prescriptive. We've in many places taken the approach of like, well, there's sort of a subsystem performance requirement where you have to do some type of little performance calculation, but it's of very limited scope. For example, there's not sort of detailed tables of roof, wall, and foundation R values. We just say, okay, your overall average U value has to be less than this. And so, you're going to have to do some takeoffs and some calculations. And that happens, I think, with also with like, fan power for heating and cooling, air distribution, and for hot water piping losses. So there's these. So the idea is to give people a little bit of design flexibility by having a subsystem performance metric without requiring like full on detailed energy modeling for all cases. So I think it's a promising approach, but it does mean that basically there's no existing software that can do all those things properly right now. So we've taken the approach of like, okay, what do we want? What do we want people to do, and what calculations do we want people to do, and what performance metrics do we want to use? And then it's the job of the market to come up with calculation aids for that. If someone wants to go into that business, or individual practitioners can develop their own spreadsheets and stuff like this.
So you're creating something so entirely new that we need support
right.
with new creations. For some of the existing calculators and protocols that we're using now are a good basis of design for something to come. But
that's another thing that above code programs typically do is require proprietary software, right? And so we've had to, so you can't do that in an open standard. You have to like write out all the methods that need to go into any calculation aid. So in the standard you say, okay, what calculations need to be done, and then it's someone else's job to actually construct those tools.
Well, Graham, is there anything else you want to share with us or with the listeners out there who are excited to see this coming to fruition and bringing Passive House a huge step closer to becoming code?
Right. I think it even says in the foreword of the advisory review, we're quite concerned about, like, is this clear? Can this be enforced? Is it clear how to comply and how to document compliance? We tried to write a whole chapter of like, okay, how do you document compliance with the requirements listed above? And we need some feedback on like, what are the prospects for like actually administering this? And the other thing to mention, I guess, is that it's not just like a tweak or an overlay of any existing standard. We started with a clean sheet of paper, and so there's ideas from PHI and Phius and California Title 24 and ASHRAE 90.1 and we looked around. So yeah, basically we started completely over and said, okay, anything that exists currently is previous work to be built upon. And so, yeah, we've done as best we can to synthesize things from different sources.
Well, congratulations on a very impressive body of work and to reaching this stage where you're receiving comments for the first round. Thank you so much. Again, I'm here with Graham Wright, Senior Scientist at Phius, and want to thank our sponsor, Solar Windows, again, for making this